Hi, I'm Simon Grant from drivingdowntheclicks.com. In this video, I'm going to share with you my 5 top tips on how to set up your first phishing campaign. So if you're new to role or just want to sense check your current approach, this video is for you. Tip number 1, have a plan. You've probably just procured yourself a great new phishing tool and you're really keen and excited to get out there and start your campaigns. But before you do, put a plan together. Think about who you want to target, why you want to target them, and what you intend to do with that data once your campaigns have completed. So let's start with the who. A couple of obvious groups: all employees, new starters, people who process payroll, third-party payments, executives and PAs, IT administrators with privileged access. Your company is unique. There's a unique set of risks, and threat actors target people for very different reasons. So blend your who with the why. So why do you want to target some of these groups? All employees to me is a great measure. Do it on a regular basis, say monthly or quarterly, and allows you to test the susceptibility across the company and also see whether your existing training and awareness material is having a positive effect on driving down the click rates, but also increasing the report rates and the speed at which people report. New starters, another great measure. You join the company, you do some training, of which we hope that phishing is part of, and does that learning stick with the individual? On receiving a phish a few days later, do they click the link or do they report it? The third area I like to focus on is a little more ad hoc. Working with our SOC and our threat intelligence teams, it's looking at the genuine threats that we receive and are blocked by our perimeter. And we'll play the game of what if. What if that email made it through to that individual? And where does that individual work? It's likely that that demographic is being targeted for a specific reason, and we'll replicate that threat just to see what would happen. And then that comes to the, well, what do you do with the data? So you've ran your campaigns, you've now got a wealth of data about who clicked, who reported, and the time it took. So take this data and look to drive other learning material. All employees, for example, you might find hotspots of your organisation where a certain division is maybe better or worse at spotting phishing emails. You can target other learning in those areas. Like I mentioned with new starters, is your mandatory training working? And then for the ad hoc threats, that allows you maybe to be a bit more targeted with one-to-one meetings with individuals, certainly if they're executives and PAs. So put a plan together as to how you intend to use this data, not simply reporting it in a pretty graph on some KRI dashboard. Tip number 2, know your stakeholders and get them on board. The worst thing you can do is procure a phishing tool and in isolation create your campaigns and send them out without anybody else knowing or even being supportive of what you're trying to do. It's only going to invite conflict. Some obvious groups for you to maybe think about. So the first one, HR and maybe unions if your company has them. People can see phishing simulations as a test and therefore they think it invites performance management and a way of pushing people out of the organisation. This is absolutely the wrong mindset to have and one that you may need to change within your company. So for me, phishing exercises are about measuring how good our alternative training and awareness material is. If our posters and newsletters and other material is really effective, then the hope is that when we simulate phishing exercises, we'll get low click-through rates and high report rates. And that should be celebrated as a success. Positive reinforcement and social proof is much better than performance management. So very much the carrot approach and not the stick. IT and certainly the service desk. When you send these emails out, there's a good chance a few people are going to pick up the phone and ring IT and say, help, what's this thing? I don't know what it is. If they're not aware of your campaigns, they might treat it like a real life incident and you might invoke real life operational procedures and waste people's time. So make sure IT are fully on board. Internal comms and maybe marketing. So you've probably got a company culture and a company brand. You need to make sure the tone of your emails, but more importantly your landing pages, matches with the culture. A phishing email is likely to be based on the threat, but if somebody does click and they land on the education page, make sure that tone is right. Make sure it's in line with what the company values are. Executives and PAs and maybe your local CISO and other people are also important stakeholders. So understand what stake they have, how interested are they in what you're doing, how influential are they in helping you make this a success. So create a stakeholder map. Who are these individuals? What value can they bring? And what do they need to know? Tip number 3, your first fish and how to create it. If you've procured a phishing tool, there's a really good chance it comes with some predefined templates, and if you want to get going quickly, these are a great place to start. However, I generally find that those templates don't really match the threat that you probably face in your company itself. So, pointers from me: be threat led. Take a look at what's going on in the industry. What types of phishing emails are targeting your company and those around you? They're a great place to start. Use your internal security operations center or threat intelligence teams if you have them. They will tell you what emails are being blocked by the perimeter, or even what emails are actually making it through to the end user's inbox. Use these as templates because this is a genuine threat that faces your company, and you can use the what if scenario. Let's send that out. Let's see what would happen if that control would have failed. And thirdly, keep it simple. Don't try and be too sneaky. The last thing you want to do is try to catch people out for the sake of catching people out. The idea of a phishing campaign is to simulate the real world threat. So use those real world threats as your template, and you've got some evidence as to why you've used a certain template and why it was important to use that template against a certain demographic. Tip number 4, test, test, test. So you know who you're targeting and why. You've got all your stakeholders on board and you've got a great template ready to go. Before you send it, make sure you test the end-to-end process thoroughly. Get yourself a pilot group of friendly people who are going to give you some really honest feedback. Send them the simulation. Make sure it loads okay on the devices they use. Test multiple devices, including mobile devices. When they click the link, does the click register properly in your simulated phishing tool? Does the education page load properly for them, again on browsers and on mobile devices? And ask them a few days later, what are the key messages they remember from that education page? If they can't, maybe you need to think about the content and make sure it really delivers what's needed. Think about the technical controls that could get in the way as well. On the inbound email coming in, does your email proxy block it? When an individual clicks the link, does the outbound proxy prevent you from accessing the education page? You may also have some advanced anti-malware solutions that will inspect links and attachments on emails that come in. They'll spin them up in a sandbox and artificially click the link. This may get registered as a click on your simulated tool and go against the user, but it's not a genuine click, so be careful for those kind of gotchas. And finally, listen to the feedback of this pilot group. You will have been really close to the detail here, and you need to make sure that your key messages and your key objectives are really working well. So take that feedback on board and refine your first fish until you get it just right. Tip number 5, culture. It's really important you understand the culture of your organisation and how a simulating phishing campaign is going to fit in with that. For me, it's all about positive reinforcement, using social proof to celebrate the success of those who report phishing emails and do it on a regular basis. We get great data on those that click and repeated clickers too, but use that to help educate them, give them the right tools, the right processes, the right platform to do the right thing. Think about timing. Is there something big going on in your organisation at a point in time that might have a negative impact or a conflict with what you're phishing? Certainly if there's something sensitive, be really mindful of that and make sure your fish aligns with the bigger picture. And finally, keep the data anonymous. Many people may ask you to know the phishing results of a particular individual. That's not the aim here. It's about, as a collective, how susceptible are we, and as a collective, how good are we at reporting fish? So think about the bigger picture and think about us all as a team who can provide that consistent layer of defence, and don't victimise individuals. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you found these 5 tips helpful and have given you some inspiration for your next phishing campaign. If you have any questions, you can contact me on Twitter @SimonGrant or visit drivingdowntheclicks.com. Good luck with your campaigns.